One of the great revelations in the Bible is the fact that you can be on the periphery of the system and still have an enormous impact. An invitation of God to go to the pinnacle or the peak. David is off on a hillside when he's anointed. Daniel is a fugitive in a sense. He's a teen captive of a foreign culture, a conquered nation, and then he's castrated on top of that. And he rises to such a position of eminence. Moses is an abandoned child who is suddenly scooped up out of the Nile into Pharaoh's household. In other words, God delights to take people who don't see themselves necessarily as main players and invite them into the drama of history. He loves to take the weak things of the world to confound the things that are mighty, the foolish to confound the wise. Nothing captures this dialectic better than like in Tolkien's work, where he shows how the little people, the hobbits, who are kind of like the weakest in one sense of all the creatures of Middle-earth, become the champions because of their character, their courage. Well, in this Tolkien's world of Middle-earth, there are mountains that have potential lighting on top of them, fire that can be lit. And from mountain to mountain, if only the mountains can be lit, then one mountain can send a signal to the other mountain and the next mountain, and eventually the army can be mobilized. And what I see in that kind of that metaphor that I see in this movie is that the hero here in this moment is going to be a little hobbit who is going to be summoned by Gandalf. It's almost like the prophet type person who is realizing that someone's going to have to light the first tower. You see, someone in your city is going to have to put a city set on a hill. You're going to have to light a fire. You're going to have to literally, you're going to have to call down fire on the top of your mountain. You're going to have to take the family mountain. You're going to have to take the education mountain. You're going to have to take the business mountain. In your business, or in your part of the world, you need to be able to light that fire. And what will happen is, if a remnant, no matter how small you may be, can ascend that hill and light that fire, it will bring encouragement to others. It will inspire hope. And in this scene, you'll see one little hobbit, Pippin, climbing up the mountain. And when he gets to a certain place, he's able to light that fire. And as he's ascending up that tower, he realizes that he's never done anything like this before. But that's like you. You may have never realized that God isn't calling you necessarily to a pulpit, but he's got a pulpit for you in the assignment he has in the world. And so this little hobbit gets to the top and he struggles, but he lights that fire. And once that fire is lit, it begins to send a signal. And you need to know this. The church world needs to have hope. In fact, Gandalf, out of his own mouth, makes the comment.
Hope is kindled.
And as that fire is lit, it signals Amundine, the next mountain. The next mountain, perhaps 50 miles away, 75 miles away, will be lit. But it's not going to be without certain people that aren't happy about the news. There'll always be people who despise the breakthrough because they're custodians of the status quo. They don't want to see change, because change is going to change the way they operate. Nevertheless, in the distance, Amundine gets the message. And then from there, the next mountain is signaled. I want you to imagine what will happen in your city when the believers realize that they're not alone and they're in the communications arena, or they're in the business sector, or maybe they're teaching in the school system. But suddenly there's prayer warriors. The riders of Rohan are on their way. There's intercessors who are going to gather to them. There are officials right now who want to run for office, who are in office, who want to make changes that will affect the benefit and blessing of a city. But they need to have you. They need to have the people of God come together and circle these mountains. You see, only 6% can make the difference. That's what we've learned. We've learned it from the study in the Middle East and what takes over nations to what takes over culture in our country as well. And as mountain goes to mountain, as believers ascend, you're going to see the United States go through its own transition. That's why some of you have been called and summoned to write scripts, screenplays, movies, and projects. That's why others of you have been called to make millions and billions of dollars. You can be trusted with wealth, because if you don't acquire the wealth, then an unbeliever who believes they can will get the wealth God intended for you.